I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things now.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Tim Waltz and AOC called Tony Hinchcliffe an a-hole for delivering the previous joke about Puerto Rico during the comedian's opening speech at Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday, after an avalanche of outrage surrounding Tony's appearance quickly hit the news cycle, from various celebrities like Bad Bunny and Jennifer Lopez, to more politicians and even fellow comedians all interacting with this story as the topic reached number 2 overall on trending. But before we hear the wild response crafted by Tony Hinchcliffe sent directly to Kamala's VP, it's important we watch the opening 5 minutes of Tony's speech in full to establish more context.
Wow, isn't this special? 17 years ago, I was sleeping in my car behind the Comedy Store in LA, and I'm proud to say this is my 4th time performing at Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the damn world. The American dream, alive and well, right here. This is very different than where I'm used to performing, though. I'm used to nighttime with people drinking, not so many babies in the crowd, and people that are obviously only here for Lee Greenwood tonight. Normally, I don't make my political beliefs a known thing. It's divisive for a comedian to do that, but just know I sleep well at night knowing who I'm voting for. Yeah. Yeah. When I lay down and my head hits my pillow, it is a fantastic pillow, by the way. I was staying at the Four Seasons up by Central Park one night, and I laid my head down, and it felt so good, and I thought to myself, what an amazing pillow. I have a little bit of money now. I could buy a good pillow. And I took the pillowcase off, and there it was, my pillow, my pillow, my pillow. And damn it, I bought 4 of them. And if you use the promo code KILLTONY, you can also buy 4 my pillows. There's serious stuff happening, people. I live in the great state of Texas now. 18 years in Ohio, 20 years in California, and I got to see California turn to absolute horrendous thing. And traveling the world, I got to see San Francisco turn into one of the most demented cities, one of the greatest downfalls I've ever seen. And that is where the other candidate worked for 2 decades. And it's absolutely wild to see. And in Texas, stuff is really crazy. We're right there by a wide open border. Where are my proud Latinos at tonight? You guys see what I mean? It's wide open. There's so many of them. It's absolutely incredible. Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this. It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies, too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country. Republicans are the party with a good sense of humor. Free speech is under attack, people. I host a show, and each week I get updates what words we're allowed to use and not use anymore. It's happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing. And, you know, used to be able to tell people to Google stuff. My mom's a boomer in the state of Ohio, and there's no convincing her of anything. She's eating the cats. She's eating the dogs. They're eating the pets up there. It is absolutely wild times. It really is. And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right. Very good. I like it. I have other policies that I think it should be implemented as well. Like me personally, I think football should be all year round. Yeah. So many great athletes. I don't know about you guys, but I think that Travis Kelce might be the next O.J. Simpson. Feels good in here. The other side's got a lot of crazy endorsements. Swift, Eminem, Leo DiCaprio, Beyonce. Every day the Democratic Party looks more and more like a P. Diddy party. Okay. Okay, that's what you guys want.
The main reason this speech is going so viral is because if you tuned into the MSG rally not expecting jokes or viewing things through a comedic lens, or if you're not familiar with Tony Hinchcliffe and comedy in general, it's gonna be unclear if the opening speaker is up there being dead-ass serious like other celebrity endorsements we've seen at rallies, or if this was just a comedian standing behind a microphone doing their job. I understand why people are making a big deal about this happening in a political setting, but anyone who's being honest and objective should be able to admit that Puerto Rico comment was clearly a joke with an obvious setup and punchline, and was even followed by Tony saying this.
Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right, very good.
Don't ever do that. It's a terrible setup. It's a terrible setup. And it's a political rally, and you're doing jokes like you're in a comedy club. It doesn't. You can't. Don't do it.
I don't really blame Tony, though, because Tony is what Tony is,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you want an insult comic, Tony is the best in the world.
That's
right?
literally his great specialty is roasting.
Right.
He's
So
the best roaster ever.
if you book Tony Hinchcliffe is going to be Tony Hinchcliffe.
Exactly.
So whoever fucking booked him, that's the person that's made the
Not
mistake.
just booked him, but apparently went over his material.
Did they go over his material?
No.
Oh my.
This is what I've read on the internet, so it must be true.
After the story started picking up steam in the tabloids and then the mainstream news outlets, Tim Waltz and AOC got on a live stream to react to the clip for social media.
Who is that jackwad? Who is that guy?
Actually, I think that's Tony Hinchcliffe, which is super disappointing. I mean, I don't. He's a comedian. I don't
Yeah, but
follow
look, Trump,
this like
this
crew
issue
very
with Puerto
closely.
Rico
but,
again.
I mean, it's like super upsetting. Obviously, it's super upsetting to me. My family is from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican, and like, I need people to understand that when you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
That is exactly,
like,
look.
that's just what they think about you. It's what they think about anyone who makes less money than them. It's what they think about the people who serve them food in a restaurant. It's what they think about the people who fold their clothes in a store.
You're
Dude,
right.
are you serious? Look at that trash. Like, what is trash is people actually just thinking of other human beings that way.
Tony Hinchcliffe responded to this clip by saying, "Wild that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his, quote, busy schedule to analyze a joke taken out of context to make it seem racist. I love Puerto Rico and vacation there. I made fun of everyone, watch the whole set. I'm a comedian, Tim. Might be time to change your tampon." To which then AOC, who's a congresswoman that actually attended a Matt Rife show in New York, sorry for not saying that earlier, she said, "This isn't the Comedy Store. You're using your set to boost like MTG and stripping women's rights to the Stone Age. Your, quote, sense of humor does not change that." JD Vance was also asked about Tony Hinchcliffe's joke during a recent rally in Wisconsin.
And my own view on this is, look, again, I haven't seen the joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it. I mean, somebody sent me a couple days ago, and they were kind of pissed off about it. Maybe it was yesterday, of this comedian George Lopez, who had made a joke at a Kamala Harris rally. And he basically, like, the point was, he was trying to make a joke. It was against Mexicans, and I forget the exact context. But if you wanted to look at it a particular way, you could say that was a racist joke. And this person, in fact, was encouraging me to sort of, blow this up and make this about how Kamala Harris doesn't respect Latinos. And my response was, can we all just take a chill pill and take a joke from time to time? This is ridiculous.
Democratic Party of Puerto Rico also issued an official statement demanding an apology from both President Trump and Tony Hinchcliffe, which was reposted on Instagram by Matt Muehling, a member of the Kill Tony band. Obviously, everyone online has been very quick to attack Tony Hinchcliffe, but like a true comedian, Jon Stewart surprised a lot of people when he defended the joke attempt on The Daily Show.
Now, obviously, in retrospect, having a roast comedian come to a political rally a week before Election Day and roasting a key voting demographic, probably not the best decision by the campaign politically. But to be fair, the guy's really just doing what he does.
Jon Stewart went on to say he finds Tony funny and also observed that the public conversation, at least from people who understand comedy, has started to shift away from "is Tony racist" into "why was he even speaking at this event in the first place?" Donald Trump stated he did not hear the joke when it was said during the rally and does not know who Tony Hinchcliffe is, saying, quote, "Somebody put him up there."
I was told and made aware that you had no idea about this comedian who made comments.
I have no idea who he is. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he was. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him. But I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in. And I can't imagine it's a big deal. I've done more for Puerto Rico than any president, I think, that's ever been president.
Technically, he did show up and do his job as a comedian by telling jokes, regardless if you found them funny or not. For example, the week before this happened, Tony Hinchcliffe was going viral for delivering much more out-of-pocket jokes on College Game Day, and nobody blinked an eye. So this really is all about the setting. And given the setting, it does make sense why some people have a problem with Tony's words. But it's also super obvious how many people are just using these comments as the newest pawn awarded to them in this game against Trump, and feel a compulsive need to echo every headline they read during election season. In fact, this is becoming a big story more because it can help one side win, and less because everyone cares so deeply about Puerto Rico. And that's when politics get really gross. When people pretend to be ultra mindful about something in a super virtuous way, but in reality, it's all just about concealing their real hatred. Performing stand-up and making a speech look almost identical to the naked eye. So comedy will always be an easy target to take out of context, either by accident or on purpose for political gain. And like Tony said in his initial response, there were multiple groups and topics that he made fun of during his 11-minute set. But all the pushback and madness has just been focused around this one comment, which is something a lot of people have been pointing to as potential evidence that a portion of this outrage may have been generated by bots in an attempt to further turn up the heat. It's certainly not all bots, as news publications like the Rolling Stones, Vulture, and thousands of others have all published articles trashing the set, and now even the Republican Party of Puerto Rico has released a statement saying they will refuse to endorse Trump until they get an apology. Like most news stories, this will probably pass with time, but it is funny to see how many smaller comics have come out of the woodworks for a chance to pile on Tony and let out some of the jealousy that's built up over the last year. The speech obviously did not go well, but the amount of people so gleefully reiterating that he totally bombed, in probably one of the worst settings for comedy possible, by the way, as if that should 1, affect the election in any logical way, or 2, somehow define Tony's entire comedy career, makes no sense whatsoever. And outside of Mark Maron, all of the comics seriously calling out Tony in a not joking way also all happen to be significantly less successful.
The amount of comics that are coming out and piling on and trashing Tony Hinchcliffe, I mean, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
How are you not just even if you think he bombed, even if you didn't like the jokes, how are you not celebrating it and going like, wow, dude, what a crazy moment that a comic gets invited to go and roast one of the biggest moments in like political history. This is massive. It's so
apparently Don Rickles did a Reagan one. I saw some. They
had somebody was doing a Kamala. George Lopez was doing the Kamala thing, and he trashed Mexicans, and nobody's making a big deal about it.
Joke.
Ari Shaffir put out a statement defending Tony that read, "Stop judging comedy on corporate sets with bad audio you discovered from social media posts instructing you to get worked up about them. By the way, most comics weighing in on this aren't working stand-ups. They are writers or podcasters first. Real stand-ups don't get angry about trying jokes. These are phonies just sad about failed stand-up careers. Tony is my friend. He is hilarious. This isn't going to change the election. Go smell a flower."
I said to him, I go, dude, that's the one's going to get you stabbed.
Really?
Yes. And he used to talk about it on stage, saying, Joe Rogan always says, that's the one's going to get me stabbed. Like,
wow.
Which is so crazy. Here's where that joke comes from. Tony is actually obsessed with the Pacific garbage patch. And like the fact that we just throw, like we were talking about like recycling. Like recycling doesn't work. They don't do it. Most of your bottles, when you throw in a recycler, they get put in landfills. So there's a landfill in Puerto Rico that's way overflowed. Puerto Rico has a legitimate trash problem because they're on an island. Like, where are you going to put it, right? There's all these people living on that island. Where are you going to put it? And so they have landfills. Their landfills are way over capacity. So that's where the joke came from.
Right.
Like, the joke came from, like, Tony being environmentally conscious about recycling.
Yeah, they don't seem to have taken it that way.
But from his roaster perspective, that's where the joke comes from.
Totally.
I think it's called Puerto Rico. And you say it and everybody laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, we were at the rally, and people say no one laughed. Not quite true. Like, it didn't get a big laugh, but it got a bit of a laugh.
It's a funny joke.
Yeah.
It's, you know, even Jon Stewart said it was a funny joke.
Yeah.
If these people were actually speaking up for social justice and not just trying to tear down a more successful peer, they could have done so at any time using literally thousands of jokes from Kill Tony over the last 11 years that are all more racist than floating garbage. But nobody ever did that because nobody actually cares. Plus, in these situations, the comedians come out bigger on the other side almost every single time, which is a lesson you'd think would be learned by now. There is news about Kill Tony possibly losing sponsors, even though the real show is far edgier than the rally joke, but all of that is still yet to be confirmed. If anything, the most significant loss could be any future plans with Netflix, although that entire partnership in the first place is still just a rumor. But even if Netflix did cut off a potential deal with Kill Tony because of that joke, it would only make the show more infamous at the end of the day, and the cult-like following on YouTube would just grow more loyal. So it seems like a win-win for old Tony Hinchcliffe. Guest spots from last week: The Joe Rogan Experience sat down with Luke Bryan, Brian Cox, Sam Tripoli, and Donald Trump. Harland Williams and Dr. Phil were on Kill Tony. Sam Morrell and Rachel Feinstein took a trip to Stavi's World. Tom Papa was on Whiskey Ginger. Sebastian was the guest on Your Mom's House. Are You Garbage welcomed Brett Ernst. Brett also dropped by Legion of Skanks with Aaron Berg. Sum 41 showed up on Birdcast. Casey Rocket experienced Chrissy Chaos. Whitney Cummings stopped by We Might Be Drunk and was also the guest on Being In with Jordan. Cheech and Chong took a wild ride with Steve-O. Russell Peters was on You Be Trippin'. Henry Winkler broke bread with Tom Papa. Ian Fidance came by Sag Daddy DePod. John Goblikon was on Bad Friends. And Two Bears, One Cave featured Bert and Stavros Halkias.
Would you have Trump on?
No.
Why not?
I'm not interested in it at all. Not interested in having him on at all. And it's also hack at this point. He's been on enough podcasts where it's like, it's kind of like when a guy's doing a special and he's been on every podcast and you're like, I'm skipping it. I heard this story.
Yeah.
I heard this on YMH. I don't want to listen to him on Are You Garbage. He's going to say the same stuff. Trump has gotten to that level where he's doing every podcast where it's like, all right, we get it, man.
Trump should do Are You Garbage. Here's a question.
Yeah. Have you ever anyone?
This past weekend with Theo Von spoke with JD Vance. JD also was on The Tim Dillon Show. Steve Gerben took a trip to Stuff Island. Gerbies and Chris O'Connor were also on Matt and Shane Secret Podcast. Craig Shoemaker took a ride on the Harland Highway. Harland Williams was the guest on Anniewood. Ali McCoskey took her shoes off with Rick Glassman. Story Wars included Kevin Ryan, Giannis Pappas, and Mike Finoia. Rob Schneider was on the Adam Friedland Show podcast. David Angelo sat on the couch with Soder. Chris DiStefano and Joe DeRosa were live on First Date. Colum Terrell stopped by Durag and the Deer Tag. Judd Apatow made it weird with Pete Holmes. Jim O'Hare was on the Honeydew. Adam Ray sat in the way back. The Zach and Lewis show featured Ian Fidance and Shane Torres. And there's a new episode of The Regs. As far as new stand-up comedy specials that are either out right now or coming out soon, Ryan Long Solving the World's Problems is out right now on YouTube, along with Paul Verzi, Reasonable Man, Josh Wolf, 4 Stories, Ali Sadiq, The PTA Special, and Lavelle Crawford, I Could Eat Part 1. Heather McMahon, Breadwinner is out on Hulu. Seth Meyers, Dad Man Walking is out on Max. Rachel Bloom, Death Let Me Do My Special is on Netflix. And Brett Ernst, Uncaged is out right now on the Witzt Comedy TV YouTube channel, which is a new platform brought to you by The Comedy Stand in New York City.
New special, Uncaged, is out right now on YouTube, presented by Pete Davidson. So my first question for you, what was Pete's involvement in this project and how was it working with him?
Well, me and Pete have been friends and for a while. Well, you know, he's a lot younger than me, so but he rose up really quick, so he's always been supportive. And the guys that own the stand bought this new streaming service. It's called Witz Comedy TV. They wanted to get involved, and then we asked Pete, and they asked Pete, and Pete was like, yeah, you know, he wanted to get involved. So, you know, he's always supportive. You know, he was very supportive.
There's also a handful of specials that will be coming out in the near future, starting off on November 8th with Adam Rowe, What's Wrong With Me, premiering on YouTube. And speaking of Adams, Adam Ray will be making his Netflix debut with his Dr. Phil character set to come face to face with the real Dr. Phil on November 19th. Also coming out on Netflix is Anthony Jeselnik's first special in the last 5 years, titled Bones and All, along with Tom Papa home free in November, and new specials from both Fortune Feimster and Nate Bargatze in the month of December. But other than that, comedians have been really getting woven into the political narrative lately. Obviously, with this situation involving Tony, that will likely end up in one of those hateful political anti-Trump commercials, but also with Donald Trump going on this past weekend, Flagrant, and now of course the Joe Rogan Experience. We broke down that entire episode with Trump in a video that will be on the end screen right after this that includes a lot of clips from Joe Rogan reflecting on that interview, and also includes a status update for what's going on with the Kamala Harris interview. I also do just want to say this is a comedy news channel and not a regular political news channel, so first of all, my political takes might be way off. I can't be blamed for that legally because this is comedy news, so whatever. But also, when the two topics do intersect, especially when it comes to people we talk about all the time like Tony, it only feels right to report on it. But ideally, we would never talk about this stuff at all. If you've watched this far into the video and are interested in some free Joke World stickers, you can fill out the link below or shoot us a message on Instagram and we'll make sure these get over to your house completely for free in the snail mail within a few weeks. Also, if you're looking for some more bonus Joke World content, check out our Patreon in the link down below. But other than that, thank you for watching.
At Joke World. That's it, at Joke World.
And the world is WRLD.
That's a great YouTube channel, Joke World. Check it out.